What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Strike like a lightning bolt. You feel the ground pounding, that might be the coast. Quick like a jolt, like to hit when provoked. Don't you doubt that. That's a jaguar to a house cat. That's an outcast to a whole squadron. If you talking Houston, then we've got a problem. You'll probably get the horns if you mess with the cattle. Sit back in your saddle and get ready for the fan battle.
You know Jacksonville's motto, going places and eating faces.
Right.
Gang, gang.
Oh boy, hey, that was not as graceful as it usually is. Good evening. Welcome to the AFC South Fan Battle Podcast, brought to you by Fan Battle Sports. We've got a new panel of folks this week. This is a little bit different from what we normally do, but hey, I'm your host, your biased host. My name is Harish, and this week on the Fan Battle Podcast, we've got VT from the Texans.
You're muted.
Who's on mute.
Hope you can hear me now. What's going on?
Oh, got a little bit of vibration there, VT.
Come back at.
All right. Well, VT's having some technical difficulty while he gets back. He's probably already getting prepared for the season as the Texans are getting ready to be horrible. So that matches up. Getting a 1 week there, 1 week before time. Commenting for the Titans this week. We've got our good old friend. What's up, man? How you doing, Maximus?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Doing all right. And commenting for the Jaguars, the Jaguars who think they're going to win the division this year. We've got Anthony. Anthony, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. Happy to be here. The Jaguars will be winning the division this year. I just want to make that clear.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. They should win the division, but we never know with the Jaguars.
Yeah.
And commenting for the first place Colts Rookie of the Year, Colts Anthony Richardson. Chase, how you doing this week, man?
It'll be a lot better when we figure out what's going on with the JT news by tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll dig right into that. We'll dig into that here in a little bit. But first, before we get started, I do want to talk about the injury that occurred to a Jaguars player, if I'm not mistaken, over the weekend. I don't remember the name, but we'll get underway with NFL news. So there was an injury in the Jaguars game. Was it the Jaguars game? Where
It was the Jaguars game, but it was a Miami Dolphins
Yeah.
receiver.
There we go. Okay, Miami Dolphins player. His name is Dawood. He suffered, I guess it was a concussion, but he was on the field laying down for quite a bit. I didn't get a chance to watch the game. So, Anthony, since it was the Jaguars game, you want to kind of give us a rundown of what was going on?
To be fair, I had honestly turned the game off by that point because it's preseason. I had seen Trevor. I had seen what I needed to see from the offense. But yeah, no, it looked like it was probably a concussion, something like that. 8.5 minutes to go. Might as well just call the game. No reason to come back after something like that for a meaningless preseason game.
Gotcha. Dawood Davis is the name there. Thanks there, Matt. So, yeah, I didn't really get a chance to check the game out. It sounds like he was released from the hospital later on that night. And from what I understand, he was able to make it back and travel back with the team, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Yep. So he was able to travel back with the team. Shoulder pad to the head. You know, these things are, as much as the NFL is trying to limit the way these injuries occur, at the end of the day, it's still a violent sport, right? And these types of injuries occur. These types of injuries happen. What do you guys think? Is there anything else that the NFL will do or can do to prevent these types of hits? Because as much as they're trying to prevent them, it almost, I mean, obviously we remember what happened to Hamlin last year on live TV. I don't think that was concussion related, but anything you guys think the NFL might try to attempt to do to limit these types of injuries?
Well, hopefully you could hear me better now, so I'll just start real quick and say that the Guardian caps that they're using in practice are supposedly reducing concussions by 10%. So perhaps that's one day what they will try to do in regular season. I know that the Guardian caps actually throw off your balance because they're heavier, so they have to find a way in order to make the weight distributed in order to be able to use in the regular season. But if it can reduce the concussion percentage by 10%, in practice and training camp, then I think it's something that they will bring over when they get the technology right, weight distribution, and make it look a little better.
I think they were trying to use those. Is it the same padding that they were using in practices?
Yeah, those are called the Guardian caps. Yeah, it's the same one, but they got to figure out that weight distribution because J.J. Watt, when he was before retirement, was saying that one of the things that he hated about it was he couldn't get off his breaks and stuff quickly because the weight distribution literally changed how he would have to play football. So they have to figure that out to make it similar to the regular helmets. And it's literally just a matter of time because technology changes pretty quickly. So. I'm assuming they can get there. It's just probably how many years? 2 years, 4 years, whatever it is.
Yeah. VT, you're still coming off as staticky, by the way.
God damn. All right, I'll leave it. My bad.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good point, though. To VT's point, and we've seen this kind of as players have started practicing. It kind of really showed up the first time last year where they were using the padded helmets. And to VT's point, we don't know if it was impacting their ability to move on the field, and we've heard that might be an issue where there's the issue with weight distribution. Obviously, we're great for Dawood Davis that he was able to make it back out of the hospital, able to make it home, travel with the team. Here is a comment from Jay saying you could either do that or you could split block. You could split blockers as rubbing up. Oh, okay. He was talking about the mic. That has nothing to do with the injury there. But we'll continue to see what goes on there as we continue to see what the NFL does to prevent injuries here moving on in the future. Anyway, as we move on, let's go ahead and get into this week's action. And we're going to start off with the Titans here.
Nighty night, lights out, no Tyson. About to be the clash of the Titans.
And, hey, Maximus, we're going to go ahead and get started here with the Titans, testing out some new transitions here. Talk to us about the Titans last week. What happened?
It's preseason, so nothing special. Malik didn't shine as much as we wanted. Levis was out again, so we didn't get a chance to see him. Our starters, it was a joke. They just rolled Tannehill out there and he handed off 3 times and then just left the field. It was, it wasn't what I wanted to see, that's for sure. Yeah, I went to the game. It wasn't very exciting.
So what you're saying is Tannehill is practicing for his midseason form because handing off the ball is literally what he does best, right?
Yeah,
so make sure.
Sure. I hope that the play calling is distributed better than it was on that series for sure.
Are you excited to see that that's what Kelly is bringing to the offense is using Ryan Tannehill's strengths at his best?
Yeah, like I said, just hoping that he's keeping his bag of tricks all, hidden away. Because, I hope that's not a taste of what we're going to get most of the season. Because if it is, I'm going to have a disappointed season.
Fair enough. As we look to cut day tomorrow, everybody's favorite time of the preseason, we don't want to go down the entire 53-man roster because we don't have 30 years to do so. But why don't you give us some players to kind of keep an eye out on? Who's on the bubble? Who are those position battles that we've been kind of looking for? And just a breakdown on who you like to see make the roster and who you think might be there on the border there.
All right, so some interesting moves I think the Titans might actually make is I think they might put Kyle Phillips on IR. Just so we can use that extra roster spot for another wide receiver because God knows we need a lot of wide receivers. I think Kyrus Jackson's shown enough to make the team, and I hope Colton Dowell does, but I don't know if he will or not. As far as the defense goes, Caleb Murphy shined. A lot of people had question marks on him, and he showed up big time in the preseason, was in the backfield pretty much more than the quarterbacks were. We don't have a kicker, which is
that sounds normal.
We really didn't have a kicker all off season, if we're being honest with ourselves. We had people at the position, but they weren't starting quality kickers, in my opinion.
I hear Blankenship's available.
Yeah, I'm good on that. And I'm a Georgia fan, so if I'm passing on a Georgia player, that's a bad sign. As far as people that didn't make the team that you might think will, Monty Rice. A lot of people that thought at the beginning of the training camp that he was starting next to Al Shire. Looks like he might not even have a roster spot. So that was a shock. But other than that, everything's pretty, I think, pretty clear with us. I'm hoping that we get the good news for Titans fans is Treylon Burks was back on the practice field today.
Good.
Yeah, catching balls and landing one leg on the knee.
Awesome.
So obviously, yeah, he's not doing 7-on-7s or anything like that. It's individual work, but still, it's nice to see him land on that leg and it looked firm. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for my roster right there, buddy.
You never want to hear injuries because that's obviously part of the game. We hate each other's teams, but we're also we're human in the fact that we want to see Treylon Burks eat cheeseburgers without getting injured. So we want to make sure that he's not injured while he eats those cheeseburgers. That way, when he sucks it up on the field this year, it's legitimate and not because of an injury.
Well, look, man, Matt's got it. See, I went to try to give y'all credit, and then I look in the comments, and Matt's got it already taken care of for me.
Perfect.
But I was going to say that I'm surprised I got through my whole bit without someone saying something about mayonnaise. But, Matt, even though he's not on the show, he's still on the show.
Yeah, Matt's a top contributor, and that's what we need here on the AFC South Fan Battle Podcast. So, if you ever think you're going to get it out of an episode without the mention of mayonnaise, I think you're on the wrong podcast.
Never again.
And VT is still staticky. All right.
Still staticky?
Still staticky. Yeah, man. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, having some difficulties, but you're still staticky.
All I have to say about the mayonnaise thing is that Will Levis signed a lifetime deal with Hellman's, which pretty much cemented the fact that mayonnaise jokes are going to follow us around at least until he goes away. Probably forever, but that's okay because it's the first time a rookie's ever made a deal like that. And you know what I say? Kudos to you, man. Good job for taking a situation and making the best of it.
Well, to be fair, if he didn't present himself putting mayonnaise in his coffee, then we probably wouldn't be in this situation. So maybe next time he should be more aware of who's taking film on him, which would match up. Which probably is the reason why he's not doing so well in training camp, because he's not watching the film or trying to figure out who's watching him at all times. But hey, anyway. Next, Anthony, I'm gonna switch on over to you, and we're gonna talk a little bit.
Like to hit when provoked, don't you doubt that. That's a Jaguar to a house cat.
All right, Anthony, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Jaguars game? Obviously, David Davis was a topic of discussion, but why don't you talk about a little bit about what you were able to see in the game on Saturday?
All right, so like I said, I did not watch the entire game, but I watched the important parts. And what I saw was the Jaguars' first team offense took care of that Dolphins defense with no problem. They went up and down the field without any issues. Would have been better if Tank didn't fumble right at the goal line for a touchback, because otherwise we probably would have been up 14-3 after the first two drives. But they pulled Trevor, I think, 4 minutes into the second. So I saw enough that the offense is gelling. They're working well together. Ridley looks really good, which I kind of figured was always going to be the case. He's been taking care of his body. He's been staying in shape, and he looks the part.
So is Ridley wide receiver one?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm just making sure. Listen, everybody was really excited about Christian Kirk last year.
When you drop $72 million on somebody, you better get excited, because that's a lot of money to spend on somebody. But I think Christian Kirk is really good at what he does, but he is a slot only guy, basically.
Yeah.
Ridley can play in the slot, but he's dominant outside. So he's actually going to make it easier for Christian Kirk, because he's going to take attention off of that. So Christian can be the receiver that he always was. He's not meant to be a number one. Ridley is absolutely a number one, because there's not many players in the NFL that can run routes like him, that have that kind of speed. And he just understands DB's blind spots really well. And there's just not a lot of players that are at that level with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And there's a comment that came in that I'll show, but with having Ridley there, what do you think happens to Kirk stats wise? Do they go up? Do they go down? Do you think it balances out?
Honestly, I think Kirk probably ends up somewhere around the same. I think, we had Marvin Jones last year. He wasn't anything spectacular, but a lot of what Marvin Jones got is going to go directly to Ridley. I'd say Zay Jones is probably going to be hurt a little more by Ridley than Kirk will be.
Okay.
But honestly, I think the offense is going to take a step further. I think Trevor takes another jump from what he did last year, similar to what he did last year, to really cement himself in that top 5 conversation. Yep. But I think that Kirk probably sits somewhere in the same ballpark that he was, just around 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, maybe. Yeah. Sounds about right.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about the roster. What do you think happens tomorrow? Any specific folks that the audience should be keeping an eye on? Who's that one guy that may make the roster? There's always a fan favorite, and watching Hard Knocks, we know this, right? There's always that one guy. Now, obviously, this is TV, so that already kind of leans into that. But who's that one guy that's like the fan favorite that people are waiting to see if he makes the team or not?
So the fan favorite probably would QB Nathan Rourke, but he already got cut, and I don't think he ever stood a chance to actually be QB2. Beathard is the veteran presence behind Trevor. I didn't think that he was going to really push for that spot, but he was a fan favorite. But I think the real battle is going to come down to the wide receiver position. The Jaguars have a lot of talent in that back end that could be a wide receiver 5 or 6 on a lot of rosters. So there's going to be some guys that are going to get cut that are going to get picked up pretty quick. And there's been all kinds of crying and debates on Jaguars Twitter all day about who that 5 and 6 is going to be. Because there have been a lot of guys that have made some plays this preseason to make their case. So that those last 2 spots in the wide receiver room are going to be very interesting to see what they do. Most of the rosters pretty well set out. We returned 21 out of 22 starters from last year. So
Really
not a lot of turnover from there. Honestly, didn't do a lot in free agency either. So it's a lot of rookies and stuff like that. But
Yeah, as the non-biased host, the Jaguars are looking good. They're set up for success. Obviously, it's been a while since they've had back-to-back good seasons, which we got to bring up because it is the mantra of the Jaguars franchise, right? One good season every 5 or 6 years, sometimes a little bit more. I'd be interested to see. On paper, they should put it together, right?
absolutely.
It looks like.
And I think the difference between this team and 2017 purely is quarterback and coach. Doug Marrone wasn't a bad coach, but he's not out calling plays the way that Doug Peterson is. And Trevor Lawrence is like 500 times the quarterback that Blake Bortles could ever be. No matter how awesome of a guy Blake is, he's not a Super Bowl contending QB.
Absolutely.
And as soon as Tom Coughlin, pissed off that defense in that locker room and sent everybody the way they were, there was no shot that team was going to stay together and stay relevant without a QB to keep them at a competitive level. I think that now with Trevor, there's no reason that they should take a step back. It's how much of a step forward will they really take?
Yeah. Well, hey, we got 2 weeks to find out, to see what happens there. VT, give me a mic check.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Oh my gosh, it's about time. Whew. All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Texans here.
Outcast to a whole squadron. If you talking Houston, then we've got a problem.
All right. Basically, here's what happened. We had a couple cuts, and we had some surprise cuts. So Desmond King, who was an inside corner, we thought that he was going to stick around. He's been with us for a while, took a pay cut last year in order to actually to stay on the team. He got cut. We just got somebody actually this week who played in the preseason game, caught the interception that actually won us the preseason game. So he commanded that roster spot. Sad to see Desmond King go. He's a really good team player, can play the inside and outside. So that, to me, that was the only surprising cut. Roy Lopez got cut. He had a terrible season last year. He worked on his body, got better, but got hurt again, and so wasn't able to compete. We got rid of Kirko. All you might know about Kirko. He's been in the NFL for a while. He can't cover. He's getting old. They released him. I have a feeling that they actually worked with him because I think that he actually asked to go because I think he views himself as a starter and not as a backup. We got rid of 2 of our tight ends, Mason Shrek and Vanette, which means that we are preparing to pick up some more tight ends. So if you caught the preseason game against the Saints, I think most of you, if you're not being too biased, will agree that Stroud is throwing some great throws. Pat McAfee talked about him today, saying that he can literally put the ball anywhere he wants. And obviously not just being a homer, but, if you're watching football, you can see that's true. The big challenge for us is going to be the receivers because last preseason game and in this preseason game, we had drops. Noah Brown dropped 2 passes in the preseason game against Miami. We had drops with Woods and Collins in this game. That's going to be the challenge. It's not going to necessarily be, can the quarterback Stroud actually get the ball there? It's going to be, will the receivers be able to actually catch them? And then if you know anything about the first game, it was really bad because our O-line was basically third stringers. So in this game, we had most of our first stringers up there. Howard is still out, but you had others protecting him, and the line was strong. The line was strong, notably without 15th overall pick Kenyon Green. So they put him in the backups. He's actually in the seconds, which is interesting. We grabbed Dieter, who was in Miami, who didn't play a single snap on offense and only played on special teams, but he actually was good at left guard. So I don't know whether, Kenyon Green is going to be a bust, but what I'll tell you is I don't think he's going to start this season and be part of the ones. So overall, the Texans are looking good on offense. On defense, Will Anderson's looking like a beast. We saw the plays against Miami looking great in camp. We didn't have Sting or Nelson, two of our best corners, play yesterday, and they're part of a great secondary. Other people, obviously not just myself, are saying that it's a strong top 10 secondary. I actually believe it's going to be top 5, and I think Petry's going to be an all-pro. Call me a homer for that, but I'm going to die on that hill. So I think overall we got a good squad going. There's some challenges there, like I said, on the receivers. But I think that overall we're going to do pretty well, and I'm looking forward to sweeping some of your asses.
Yeah, I actually have the Texans as the dark horse of the. A lot of people think they're going to.
Ball.
Yeah. Maximus, I don't think that's a surprise. I mean, honestly, I do think the Texans roster-wise are probably took the biggest leap on paper. Only people that don't think that's possible is your delusional fan base, who think that they're still Super Bowl champions. Texans being second, maybe challenging the Jaguars for the division isn't as bad. CJ Stroud, look, I'm a CJ Stroud homer. I've wanted the guy since day one. You guys know this. Ever since we had the opportunity to suck, and CJ Stroud was my guy. And his accuracy was the big thing. His accuracy, he could put the ball anywhere. He can make any NFL throw. He literally can be that guy. So I'm not surprised to hear that he's making that happen. So now I'm done talking about how good the Texans are because they suck. But yeah, no, I don't. I mean, what does second place in this division look like? Matthew seems to believe that we'll be fighting for second at 6-11.
I actually think it's 7 wins. I think it's 7-10. Yeah, I think the Jags win 10 games and we win 7.
Yeah, I do think that's realistic. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. Real quick, you talked about a little bit of the cuts. Are there any other cuts or any other position battles we should be looking out for that you haven't already mentioned?
So, like I said, I think Titans are a big deal. I think we still are going to add more depth for the O-line. We lost 3 guys on the O-line this year. Scott Quesenberry, who anyone that follows me on Twitter knows I don't like, but I obviously didn't want to have him have a season-ending injury. So he got hurt. We brought in DJ Scarif, who got hurt. Titus Howard, who should start week 2, week 3, maybe week 1. A right tackle who we just extended for 3 years. He got hurt. So we had a bunch of injuries on the O-line, so I think we're going to have to continue to get more depth there. Heck, who was our swing tackle, he got hurt. So, yeah, we had 4 guys on our O-line get hurt. So we're talking O-line depth, tight end, and then I think we are still going to add more depth to that secondary as well, because I think that's going to be a strong point. When the season's done, we're going to be known for our secondary more than anything else.
Awesome. Well, Vici, thanks for breaking down the Texans. I'm glad your mic didn't break down while you were talking about them. Finally, last but not least, we're going to head over to Chase, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Colts.
And strike like a lightning bolt. You feel the ground pounding, that might be the Colts.
Chase.
Oh, all right. Well, let's talk about the game first.
Yeah.
I know the Colts fans didn't see Richardson play at the home game, which is kind of sucked, but he did play for almost, I believe he played the whole first half. He did seem jittery. I mean, it is the Eagles defense, even though they didn't have all their starters there. But he was hesitant at times. The offensive line was not protecting him that much because, for one, the starting offensive line still has not played together because Braden Smith has been out. He's been injured. Ryan Kelly wasn't in. We're still looking to see on left tackle how Raymond's going to do. Basically, the offensive line's still in shambles because we have no clue what's going to happen. Alec Pierce dropping balls. And it looks like right now Josh Downs might be that slot starting receiver now instead of McKenzie. Tight end, it looks like, if I read it correctly today, Jelani Woods is now out for the season with a torn ACL or hamstring.
You know what that means? That means the Colts have to hold on to Mo Alley Cox for another season. Jeez.
Yep.
Yeah. I hate that so much.
Yeah.
That sucks.
That's what I think Jake, Jake reported that earlier. I was on lunch break and I saw that. And then obviously, let's see what else we got. The defense was just okay. I mean, we got young corners everywhere, pass rushers. I mean, we still really don't have a pass rush. I like the guy from Northwestern. I don't really know how to pronounce his last name. Adoe.
Yeah. Ade. Yeah, I just call him Ade.
Prince. Basically, yeah. Prince Adoe.
Yeah.
I like the running back, Evan Hall. Well, we'll get into this later because we all know JT possibly might be traded by tomorrow by 4 p.m. For how much, we don't know. But Richardson looks promising. As if we're gonna lose games, let's have our rookie out there. We don't need Gardner out there right now. Gardner was very consistent. He only had 4 missed attempt incompletions all preseason. Gardner's going to do that veteran presence. I mean, the Jags had him. You guys know what he's like. He killed the Colts every time we played us.
Everybody killed the Colts every time they played us. But that's not synonymous. Just
right.
Gardner Minshew.
We also, let's see, our kicking game's okay if we got Matt Gay. Other than that, we really don't have much exciting besides Richardson going for us right now in that game. I'm glad we won, and Richardson hasn't been sacked really, and we have a mobile quarterback that can get away from the pass rush, which was I was excited to see that because when he was about to get sacked, he really got the guy off him, shrugged him off, and ran.
Yeah. Taking a look at Richardson, look at the preseason as a whole. What letter grade would you give Richardson across the 3 games? He didn't play in the second game, so basically 2 games.
I would say right now he's gotten better. I would say probably a C+ as of right now. He's right there at that at that spot. Yeah. He's not a C-. He's right there at that C+ where you're hoping for that potential is going to be more.
Yeah, I think C+ is fair. The one thing about Richardson that I think he can, I'm not going to say didn't like, but I think he can improve on areas of opportunity. That dude's got a cannon of an arm, and I think it gets in his way when it comes to he was not accurate at all. His footwork was actually pretty good, and you could tell he's trying to focus in on it, but the way he releases that ball sometimes is just
he's trying to throw into traffic.
Right. Yeah, he's trying to get there into traffic, thread the needle, when sometimes, I mean, honestly, that Josh Downs should have caught that ball that was down. I went back and looked at it. He threw it into a really good window, but is there an opportunity to potentially make it a little bit different? Throw that ball with a little bit more touch versus the velocity that he does throw it with. Talk to us a little bit about JT, the situation. Where do you think we stand as of today? Does he get traded by 4 p.m. tomorrow? Hopefully this is the last week to talk about it. We just move on, right? But maybe we don't. I don't know.
Well, like we said before the show, I mean, I was talking to some of the guys before the show. I don't know where all this came from, and starting in April, he was saying he was going to play out the contract, and then he changes agents and he changes his tune for some reason. I understand he needs to be paid. I understand that. Get your money while you can. I believe that. But he's doing it the wrong way. Pittman's in a contract year, but he'll get paid. But I just think he's got a bad attitude. He he has. Is he hurt? I'll be honest, I don't know. We don't see what the medical is. We've heard ankle, we've heard back, but then JT puts out that there's not a back problem. So what is actually going on behind closed doors that we're not seeing?
Yeah.
Is it Jim Irsay going out in public and saying stuff? I don't know. Or is it between the agent and the owner? Something's happened that we're not seeing.
I just want to chime in for 1 second, just say that the agent is actually the same agent as Titus Howard, our right tackle. And it took a little bit to get that contract done. He was searching for $20 million. We ended up on about 18 and a half. And during that time, he didn't tweet out any crazy shit like Titus Howard didn't, and neither did the agent. Also, we don't have Cal, our owner, or our GM talking about the contract publicly either. I have to say, from an outsider's point of view, this looks like Irsay started it, and his agent just basically said, if you're gonna talk about things that you don't actually even know everything about, then I'm gonna come out here and defend my guy. And that's what it seems like to me, because how the hell do you say, I take offense at you guys trying to negotiate a new contract? That's not necessarily what they were doing. They're trying to figure out solutions. That was one solution. Then he's got to say no one would care if he was out of the league. I mean, how much disrespect do you want to throw to your star running back who your offense was going to be centered around? I think it's on Irsay more than anyone else.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Looking back on it a couple of weeks, right, and as the situation started to unfold, this is who Jim Irsay is. And you know what? If he gets traded tomorrow, Jim Irsay is going to live by what he says. He'll trade him tomorrow and he won't look back. He won't care. I mean, this guy has done this before. This isn't brand new.
Yep. Eric Dickerson, Marshall Falk, Edgerrin James.
He doesn't care. I get what you're saying, VT, and I do understand that, throwing your team out there public in the media is probably not something you want to do. But this isn't new of Jim Irsay. This is kind of what we expect as Colts fans. So I'm not shocked by this at all, to say the least. What about Anthony Maximus? What do you guys think about this whole situation?
Yeah, man. Look, first of all, Jim Irsay, thank God he's not my owner. That's all I have to say. Pretty much, like VT said, it looks from the outside perspective, it looks like Jim Irsay started some junk, and the agent come in, defended his dude, and now there's just bad blood, and I don't think it can be rectified. Even if he doesn't get traded, I don't think he plays.
Anthony, any closing comments on the situation?
Yeah, I got to agree that I think it's the owner. With that, can't fault running back looking to get paid because they don't get paid anymore. But Irsay making those comments, while I understand the point he's trying to make, that in the grand scheme of things, him as an owner and JT as a player are not going to mean anything to the league because there's going to be somebody to replace them without any hesitation. So I understand that, but the way he said it, the way he delivered it was just very disrespectful, and I think that he will get traded. I don't know that it's done by tomorrow.
It's like one of those things that everybody knows it, but nobody says it. It's like one of those things. Everybody knows.
Saying the quiet things out loud.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to keep your mouth shut.
Yep.
Which is something Irsay doesn't know how to do.
Yep.
No, he doesn't. He's very bad at that, by the way.
No.
In case you guys haven't noticed.
I can't wait for the tweets once JT does get traded. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the tweets.
So let me ask you guys, I think it's Miami. Do you guys think that's where he's going to go, or do you have another opinion of where he's going to end up?
I think Miami's probably the most likely because they've been sniffing around every running back that's been in any kind of contract dispute. They've been sniffing around it, so that's probably the most likely place. But I know that the Bears have kind of shown a little interest, and I think that they would be a really smart move for them to do it because they got the cap space, they got the draft pick resources, and Justin Fields is going into a third year. You need to find out if he's the guy this year. You already got DJ Moore. That's great. But go get a running back like that and let them be a two-headed monster in the backfield and find out if Fields is the guy you're going to build around. If not, use that draft capital to trade up and get the QB that you want. So I think that would be a smart move because they can front load a deal so they can get out from it in 2 years without any dead money or any issues. And they can send them whatever pick they want. It's not going to be a first. Colts will not get a first for JT. But they would be the team that I would pick if it's not Miami.
Yeah, I don't think anybody in the fan base is expecting a first-round pick. I think getting a second-round pick, honestly, getting what you invested in him, I think is a win at this point, right? The team that I think is interesting, and I'm still keeping this in the back of my head, is the Dallas Cowboys. I think that is a team that is very, very interesting. For the sake of kind of with Jerry Jones, with Justin Fields, right? The Cowboys this year need to figure out if Dak is their guy moving forward. They went and got Brandon Cooks. They're loading the offense up for him. Zeke has never really been Zeke his entire time in Dallas, except for maybe the first couple of years he was there. So if that does having a guy like JT help him out, I don't know. I just, for some reason, I keep wanting to come back to the Cowboys. And then that probably questions: do the Eagles get in on?
I could see that
just to keep it from the Cowboys, which that's the petty kind of stuff they would.
I think the Eagles would get in it just because Howie hears trade and he's like, hold on, let me get involved in this. He hears that and he has to be involved in everything.
It is a trigger word for him. He just kind of like glitches up every time he hears it.
But say he does go to Miami, does that put Miami as a serious contender?
Yes.
I think Miami's a serious contender right now.
Already, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So adding JT, I think, just maximizes that.
Yep. Miami's probably looked at as probably a top 3 or 4 team in the conference already. Even though they share Buffalo as a division opponent, Miami is a top 4 team.
And the Jets.
The Jets, yeah.
I don't know about the Jets. I was
going to say, I'm not that excited about the Jets.
Jets defense is
The Jets is still the Jets defense. They're
well,
still good.
that defense is a problem, and you have a really good second-year wide receiver and a Hall of Fame quarterback. Aaron Rodgers had one bad year and a really bad offense. I don't think that's Rodgers. I think that's a circumstance thing. I don't think the Jets are automatically the favorite for the AFC, but they are absolutely a playoff team.
And you don't even need Aaron Rodgers to do everything. You got 2 beasts of a running back, right, to hand the ball off to Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall.
Yeah,
they can fix the offensive line problems. They're set.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all got to remember, do you know who their offensive line coach is?
Probably some bad Titans offensive line coach.
Exactly. The Titans coach from last year, the offensive line coach. We had the 32nd ranked offensive line last year. Do you know who's calling the plays?
Nathaniel Hackett, former Green Bay Packer offensive coach in Green Bay.
Yes. Aaron Rodgers is former OC where he had all those successful years. Yeah.
Yeah. Hackett's been decent as a coordinator. He's just a bad head coach. Right. So him as a coordinator doesn't really seem that bad to me.
I think that's a misconception, right? Just because you were a bad coach.
He led some pretty successful seasons with the Jaguars as the offensive coordinator, then took off to Green Bay and had a couple MVP seasons with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I don't think that's
on Hackett for what happened last year as much as Sean Payton wanted to say.
Sorry, I was referring to the passing game coordinator.
Yeah, I know you're trying to make a Titans reference here. I don't know who the passing game coordinator is.
It's Todd Downing, man. It was our offensive coordinator from last year. Yeah, so think about that for just half a second. The guy that's blocking
definitely,
and the guy that's doing the passing coordination.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's more on talent than actually, the coaching, honestly. I mean, at that point, you had a quarterback that couldn't pass. What the hell was that? I mean, what were you going to do with Willis last year?
Right.
So I'm high on the Jets. I think that, listen, as you said, right, you got Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you have a crazy defense. Brees Hall's coming back. He's healthy. So, and you have the rookie of the year. I mean, the offensive rookie of the year and the defensive rookie of the year over there. I think the people that think that the Jets don't have a chance are really sleeping on them. Yes, they probably are in the hardest division this year in the AFC East, but I think the Pats are dead in the water. They're a 7-8 win team at best, and that's at best, and probably closer to 5 or 6.
Go ahead.
The Bills have taken a step back since Matt Dayball has left. So, they're a little funky. I think they're in contention, but they're a little funky over there. And the Dolphins, as high as I am on the Dolphins, it's all based on Tua if he can stay healthy. So I think the Jets, honestly, in that division have better chances because just those 3 reasons that I said. So I could completely see the Jets in the AFC Championship.
I'll give you that.
Oh, wow.
I don't know about championship.
I don't know about
but
AFC Championship. That's
Okay. All right.
Playoffs,
All right.
I'll give you.
So they're going to be playing the Jaguars then.
Yeah, it's never a show without a VT hot take. Anyways, fellas, before we get out of here, that is the show for the night. Maximus, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Maximus Titan fan, pretty much on all social medias, and the Titans Fan Battle podcast, also on pretty much all social medias. We're really trying to grow our YouTube audience. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Awesome. VT?
So you can find the Texans Fan Battle every day at Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central. But this week we're actually on Thursday. Our guest is Patrick Crichton. He's a reporter, and so we'll get to talk to him about everything that's going on. We had Stroud be named the official QB1, and we'll talk more about that with Patrick, along with everything we saw with the preseason games.
Chase, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter right here at CSGordon2434 and on Facebook, Chase Shumway. I'm not on the actual Colts podcast yet, but I'll talk to those guys and we'll see if I can get on there later in a later date.
Awesome. And Anthony, what about yourself? Are you in the Twitterverse?
Yes, or the Xverse, whatever you want to call it now. Ammo Jags. That's all I really got, either that or Facebook. But yeah, I'm happy to have been on here. Thank you guys for having me. Hopefully there will be more rounds of this and a little more trash talk once the season kicks off.
Absolutely.
We'll see you week 1.
Yeah, we'll see for
Oh, you know it.
Yeah, we'll be there for sure. And of course, you guys can find me at the Uncle Gandhi. I'm also on Thursday nights on the Longhorn Fan Battle podcast. Yeah, you guys have a good night. Anybody have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Don't sleep on our secondary. Be warned.
All right.
Have a good Labor Day week.
Jaguars are winning the division. I just started with that. I'm going to end with that.
All righty. Well, thanks for joining us tonight at the AFC Fan Battle podcast. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Sit back in your saddle and get ready for the fan battle.